Okay, so the texture about the defense, that's true. Could you try his own defense? I guess. I don't know that that's going to be much better because here's the problem. We said this yesterday. This isn't 2020 hindsight. We said if Florida's guards play well, Texas can't win. Period. And Florida's guards, Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee, combined for 34 points and knocked down threes and were great in the second half. And with that front line, even with Houck having an ankle, you're not beating that team. Texas isn't good enough to beat that team right now. That's just a fact. And if the only chance was the Texas guards had to outplay the Florida guards significantly, and the guards for Texas played pretty well. Jordan Pope had a nice game. They were really trying to use him and be active. Tremont Mark was pretty good. Dalen Swain, who's really a guard, even though he's 6'9", had 21. But the other guys had a great game too. You're not beating that Florida. And I would say that for any team in the country. Your only chance to beat Todd Golden's team is you got to make their guards turn the ball over and have a rough night, and they did not.
Yeah, and with the zone, you just need a scarier rim deterrent than Modest Vokatitis.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Very Alex Connon was 11 of 13 inside. That's his paint.
Well, listen to the point of the texture about the defense. Here's Sean Miller. He's not disagreeing with you. He understands where they are on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Can we hear from him?
One thing that you would parse from the first 33 minutes that you think is sustainable for the rest of the season?
One thing that's remarkable about our offense is the efficiency that we've been able to establish through 28 games comes many times in spite of our defense. A great example is what I'm describing happened in tonight's game. Florida's 11 blocks, their steals, their stops, their ability to get big moments and make plays defensively feeds to their offense. It allows them to get out and get fouled and create scoring opportunities. We don't get very many of those. Actually, tonight when we did, and we had great segments where our defense really rose to the challenge, you notice what happened. We got out, and when we get out, that's when we're great. That's when we're at our very, very best. But we didn't give ourselves any of those opportunities down the last 8 minutes, and you're playing against the set defense. You're gassed fatigue-wise, and look, we broke at the end. We just did.
All right. So, and we don't get any easy buckets. This is what because I know Sean Miller's a big football fan. Sark was there last night. You've heard me say, Jack, plenty of times, this team reminds me of Sark's second year because people would call the radio shows and yell about Pete Kwiatkowski's a terrible defensive coordinator, and I'd say he doesn't have any players. He doesn't have any players to play good defense for 60 minutes against good football teams. And the fact that in year two, Steve Sarkisian had a team with Bijan Robinson and Casey Thompson and Roshan Johnson and Jordan Whittington, and they would score and they'd build leads, and then they couldn't hold it. It's what I'm hearing from Sean Miller. I mean, we can get there, but in the end, as we get tired and fatigued and there's no depth, and they just don't have good defensive players. They don't. You got to go get them. Well, Pete Kwiatkowski, a couple of years later, you get him several recruiting cycles and you give him good defensive players. They had an elite defense. Mm-hmm. It's not always the coaching, guys. You got to have players. And Texas right now doesn't have good defensive players. Period.
That's right. I mean, Jordan Pope's doing what he can. He's just so undersized. Modest Vokatitis has got to get stronger underneath. We could see that on both the offensive and the defensive end. He's just not that strong of a guy right now. And some of that is he's super tall and wiry, and he's 7 feet 1 inch, and that's going to be hard for him to do, but it's going to be necessary if he wants to anchor a defense. Dalen Swain, you're just asking him to do too much on both sides of the ball, and like he said and you said, it was just harder for Texas last night.
Well, when you block 11 shots.
Yeah, the first half it felt like they were hanging in. Tremont Mark was hitting some crazy stuff, and Florida was missing stuff at the rim. Well, that whole game you were just kind of waiting for the Florida Avalanche, and it came 8 minutes left when Texas ran out of gas.
And that's Steve Sarkisian year two.
Exactly.
You're just trying to run out the clock here, build a lead, and see if it can stick. And when you don't have players, you don't have. It's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Look, college basketball, and we know this, especially when you get to March, is played in 4-minute increments.
Right.
8 of them. Right? You have 4 in the first half. There's a media timeout at the end of the 16-minute. There's under 12, under 8, under 4. And, when you're trying to pull upsets in March, you're coaching to that. We got to play in 4-minute stretches and then get to halftime and get a breath. And then you play in 4-minute stretches. And can you get to the end? Well, Texas went through the first 6 4-minute stretches with one of the best teams in the country and was ahead. They were up 63-62. So they had maintained. But coming out of the 8-minute timeout, they got trucked, and Florida flexed, and Florida knows this too, so they weren't panicking down 1 with 8 to go. They understand they've got the deeper, more talented team, and they flexed, and Texas was out of gas, and that's what he's saying right there. If we don't ever get any easy buckets, They get steals that turn to dunks in transition. They got 11 block shots. We got 1.
Yeah.
Block shots lead to transition buckets. So it's going to, Texas isn't good enough, I don't think, right now, talent-wise, to play 40 minutes with a team that is that good. And that's why we've said pretty clearly here, you got to win the games you can compete for 40 minutes in. Because go back to the Georgia game. Texas got off to a 26-9 deficit. They came back, tied it with 8 minutes to go at 67.
And fell apart.
They lost the last 8 minutes. That's a Georgia team that's tournament bound, that was on their home floor, that Texas fell apart again. And that's going to be without depth. When you're getting nothing from Cam Heide, your power forward. Cam Heide in the last 2 games, both losses, has combined to score 2 points. He's your starting power forward. He should be coming off the bench as a role player that plays about 15 minutes a game, but that's where your roster is right now.
Yeah.
That's just there were guys playing for Texas and Sark in year 2 that didn't belong on the field in the fourth quarter, but they had to be on the field in the fourth quarter because you don't have anybody else.
If Cam Heide doesn't play, who are you putting out there?
Correct. That's year 1 of a roster, folks.
Come up with one name for me, and you can't.
No.
Are you going to shift Dalen Swain down to the 4? That's too much for him to do.
Well,
he already has to score 25 a game for you. Nick Cody and Vokatitis can't share the floor, and Nick Cody and Traore, and none of those 3, they're true centers. They have to space the floor a little bit.
Well, and let's also be fair to Sean Miller, who's very candid and honest.
Yeah.
He built this roster to bring in some guys that could be here for a while and develop. But that's all he brought back Tremont Mark and Jordan Pope and Kendall Weaver returned. But they're a limited roster. Let's
year
just
1.
call it like it is. But now the point of that is no one's going to change that narrative between now and Saturday. But A&M's a team you can beat.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat Florida. A&M's a team you can beat. Can you? You already lost to them once here. But can you go to A&M and get a win? Oklahoma here. You're not beating Arkansas next week at Fayetteville. That's not going to happen. But if you can win 1 or 2 more games, you can get in the tournament, and we'll call this a successful season. We'll take your thoughts. 512-834-1027. Now, part of the Texas football rebuild, you go back to year 1 and 2 when they were really bad and everybody wanted Pete Kwiatkowski fired. What happened? They went out and brought in great players like Anthony Hill, who played 3 years at Texas, and now he's at the NFL Scouting Combine yesterday. Well, here's Anthony Hill, asked yesterday at his media availability, what is the most underrated part of your game?
I'll say how physical I am in the run game. I feel like a lot of people haven't been talking about how physical I am in the run game, how I've been able to take on blocks and able to play physical.
All right, so you know what's funny about that is what he just said is underrated part of his game is what the NFL wonders about him. Is he physical enough? Because here's the issue. Anthony Hill, I think, is physical enough, but his instincts are to run around the block. Because at Denton Ryan High School and then again at Texas in the SEC, he's so athletic, he's so twitchy, he's so freaky, and he's going to show that in his on-field workout today, I would bet. He can get around the block and not take it on and still get and make a play. But to play in the NFL, you got to take on blocks and you got to shed blocks. And so the NFL's not saying he can't do it. They're just saying, so far we've seen him run around blocks. He's saying I can do it. But again, you won't get to show them that really until you play a football game because you can't show that in individual workouts. Mm-hmm. They'll try, but that's going to be the Anthony Hill knock. Also, what is his biggest strength as a player, he was asked.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest part of my game is how versatile I am. I'm able to play Mike, play Will, play Sam, so I really have fun being able to play on the edge and play off the ball and maybe walk out on 3. So I just have fun doing everything and being able to have a versatile part of my game.
All right, so Anthony Hill, he's a 3-down linebacker. That's a luxury in the NFL. And he can if he can show he's physical and can shed blocks and play the run. He certainly is great in coverage. He's elite in coverage. His ability to move backwards, turn and go and cover tight ends. We saw that. He can rush the passer. I don't think they let him attack the passer enough this year. Also, he was asked about the guys that are already in the NFL who played at Texas that helped him grow into the player he is and when he's going to be in the NFL.
I'll say a big shout out to the vets that I had. They kind of kept me in line. They kind of helped me out a lot. Being able to learn from them and learn the ropes from guys like Jalen Ford, Barron Sorrell really helped me out a lot. Byron Murphy. So just learning from them and developing from them kind of helped me out big time in the long run.
All right. Hard not to like Anthony Hill. He's got that voice, man. But he's going to be a good player. He's just a baby. He's 21 years old. And he'll be drafted between picks, I think, 30 and 50 is where he's going to go off the board would be my guess. But, he's got work to do. He's got this individual workout today. If you're watching NFL Network, you're going to turn it on in your office or at your home office. These are the guys working out today, the linebackers and the defensive linemen. If you're a Cowboys fan, you're probably watching this today because the Cowboys are going to draft linemen and defensive linemen and linebackers, and you're going to watch Anthony Hill and Trey Moore go through their paces today.
Yeah, positions in need. I'm excited to see where Anthony Hill goes.
Me too.
I think that, at Texas, I think part of him just running around blocks is that he was just faster and more athletic than other people. So the NFL, that's the thing. It's their job to turn him from an athlete into a football player.
Right.
Whereas at Texas,
that's good. When he does his interviews,
Yeah.
that's what's going to be asked. Hey, are you willing to take on these blocks? Or,
Sure.
And because we got to know this, because again, when you're that good of an athlete in high school and even in a lot of cases in the SEC in college, you can run around the blocks and still catch.
Exactly.
NFL, you can.
NFL speed, it's just different. You can't do that.
Because the NFL, you can't move because you lose
Yeah.
your assignment. And
Sure.
we need you to take on that block, even if you don't make the tackle. We got to occupy that blocker.
There's a
I
lot
can't
of-
have you running out of a gap.
There's a lot more see ball, get ball in college than there is in the pros.
100%, and knowing your role. One more from Anthony on who he models his game after and wants to perform like come the pros.
Anthony, is there a linebacker you model your game after, you look up to in the NFL?
I'll say Overshawn, of course, and Ezra Cooper. Those are two guys that I kind of watch and model my game after. I spent a lot of time with them, so it's pretty fun seeing their success in the NFL.
All right, Andy's been working out with Derek Johnson, but obviously DeMarvion Overshown, former Longhorn playing for the Cowboys, and Edge Cooper, former Texas A&M star. Remember Anthony Hill when he's coming out of high school as a 5-star player, committed to A&M first.
That's right.
And then flipped to Texas, and that was part of, again, back to Sean Miller. You got to have players, guys. You got to have players to play good defense, and Sark has shown you that you get the right players. And now for Sark in year 6, it's about the coaching. For Vic Schaefer in year 6, it's about getting over the top and delivering. Sean Miller is in the infancy stages of building his rosters and his teams, and I think we've already seen a lot of dividends. This is going to be a good basketball coach.
Yeah, of course. If we're talking about the same stuff 2 years from now, then
then
alarm bells.
Then
But
you get fired.
your first roster, especially in the portal era, is never going to be particularly talented.
As we've said
bring it
many
back
times.
to Chris Beard. That first roster wasn't that great. They still got into the tournament and won a game. That's, I think, Sean Miller's task as well, is to try and get into the tournament, win a game, and then I think the absolute ceiling would be Sweet 16, but that's optimistic. I think
That would
right now
be-
you're
if
just
they got
worried
to the
about
Sweet 16. That'd be pretty
Or,
incredible.
with
this current roster. And you get the draw right. You get the teams that you match up
Exactly.
well with on the first weekend.
I think you're
Not
happy
out of the question.
getting into the tournament and winning one game,
Sure.
and I think that's probably
But if you get the right matchup,
about right. Yeah.
maybe, because again,
Exactly.
they're
That's what I'm
offensively
thinking.
very, very efficient.
And Dalen Swain, you could just go crazy in the tournament. Vocatitis, we saw what he did against Ole Miss. If there's a matchup like that, you never know.
But again, this
Basketball's a
goes
matchup
back to
sport.
Sean Miller's coaching ability. When they've been kind of even talent-wise, they've won
Yeah.
because he's a good coach.